Hey loves, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to fill you guys in on how the last couple of days went since we're back from vacation. So I do have like a little bit of an update and like a show and tell of like how the changes that I made to my notebook system is working and all that stuff. I'm also going to show you how I'm using my journal and all that good stuff. So let's just kind of jump into today's video. I guess you can say it's going to be sort of like a flip in a sense, but I really just want to share with you all how things have been going since I've made these changes. I did, however, find something that I thought I would want to use, but I was a little hesitant on taking the plunge only because I already have a really good system with notebooks, and I'm not so much into the very structured planning. But my son just turned 4 and he's going to be going to school. I haven't quite figured out if I'm going to homeschool or not. So I've been kind of looking into some options for next year in terms of like that type of planning, because obviously my son's going to school, so I kind of like need to figure that part out. But yeah, I've already started looking into some of that, like schedule based type stuff already. But nonetheless, let's get into today's video. So I'm going to show you guys my journal first, and then we'll go into my planners. They always take the longest, but I'm going to try to keep this video really short. So for those of you who don't know, this is an Odyssey notebook. This is 68 Tomo River paper, or I'm sorry, 68 GSM Tomo River paper. It's blank. It is the original Tomo River paper that before all the crazy stuff, basically. And there are 400 pages in this notebook. So I kind of moved all of all of my journaling out of my bullet journal. I'm still doing journaling in there, but I have decided that I just wanted to keep a separate journal because I like to put pictures and like collective things into my journals, and sometimes that doesn't necessarily work in my bullet journals. The last time you guys seen this journal, it was blank basically. Since then, I have definitely been using it. I did use my markers to just write like a hello message here, and I kind of went over this quite a few times to get it this dark because the marker itself isn't really that dark. And like I said, it is the original Tomo River paper, so it did not bleed through whatsoever. I mean, maybe, but really I think that's just a lot of ghosting, to be honest, because there's like really no bleed through. But yeah, so definitely good paper for your markers and stuff. So last time you guys seen this book, I basically didn't have anything filled out except for the first page. You might be hearing my son. The last couple of days since we've came back from vacation, he's been extremely fussy and like just temperamental and like the joys, right? But I digress. But like I was saying, the last time you guys seen this book, I didn't have much of anything in here. Leading up to our vacation from the last time that I filmed, we hung out a lot. So my husband was on vacation for this week or the last 2 weeks, and so we just like hung out a whole lot. So we went to Longhorns, and we went here, and I took pictures of my son. This is getting ready for our trip. This was for my son's birthday. So my son's birthday was on the 29th of June. He turned 4. So this is his second haircut. I wasn't able to get a picture of his first haircut, so I made sure to get a picture of his second haircut. And then this was our trip to Cedar Point. So for those of you who do not know, I am originally from Ohio. I won't say specifically, but I'm originally from Ohio. And so Cedar Point is our home park. That is like our creme de la creme of parks in Ohio. Like that's where we go to have fun. That and Kalahari. So we are currently stationed here in Maryland, and we drove 6+ hours to get home, and we were able to get all 4 generations together for this trip. Granted, my son was the only kid. There are really no kids in our family that is his age, but we were able to get like all 4 generations. So my mom, my husband's mother, and my husband's grandparents. So my son's great grand, his 2 grannies, and then us. So it was very nice to have basically all of us in the same space. My mom is a lot older than my husband's mom, at least 10 years older. So that's why I say there's like at least 4 different generations of people there, including us. Different age group, but nonetheless. So yeah, this is a little bit from our trip, and it's picture heavy only because I really wanted to capture these moments. They are his grandparents, and we do not know if all of these people will be here next year. So I really wanted to just collect the pictures that I could collect during this trip. So here's a picture of my mom and my son. We had to get these stupid I hated these carts. Cedar Point has changed quite a bit since the last time that we have been. We went a lot back in 2018 before my husband went off into the military, and before we got married and stuff, we went a lot. But Cedar Point has changed in the worst way. Sadly to say, it used to be a really, really fun park to go to, but it's not plus size friendly. It's not family friendly, in my opinion. They've taken out all the like fun out of the park, and then they don't make it accessible for people with disabilities or people who cannot walk. So like, we had quite a few people in our group that just could not do this walk. My mom and my husband's grandfather could not do this walk really, and so they had to have these chairs. So it was just a whole thing, but she had the time of her life along with my son, and so I was really happy that I was able to catch pictures of them just having a really, really good time. And then I was also able to capture some things. This is a reprint of the re-entry ticket that we had to have to get back into the park. And then this is a photocopy of this stupid driver's plate or car plate that had to be right here in the front. The original one I've tucked in the pocket. So that is some stuff from the first couple of days. And then here are some more pictures from our trip. So my son isn't new to like theme parks. We took him to Europa Park when we were in Germany for his first birthday, and he was able to ride a lot of the rides despite the fact that he was 1. He was turning 1 that time. So he isn't new to roller coasters, but this time he actually understood what what these things were versus from when he was 1. So yeah, I took a lot of the little pictures here, and then pictures of dad and son. I unfortunately am not in a lot of these pictures because I just couldn't fit in the rides, and I was the one snapping the photos, so collectively I didn't take any photos. And then these are some pictures of like his great grandparents. I kind of shielded their faces because I know that my in-laws don't like to be on social media whatsoever. I know that they just don't like their faces being shown. So I collectively hid their faces, and I might even throw over like a blur over this just to continue hiding their faces. But I thought it was just so perfect that I was able to capture these moments with my son and his grandparents. And then another picture here with his 2 grandparents, my mom and my husband's mom. And then the last image that I have from our trip, this is actually when we were dropping people off. So we dropped my mom back off, and then I snapped a photo of my 87-year-old grandmother and my son. My grandmother is suffering from dementia really heavily right now, and so I wanted to get this picture because she may not be here. There's no telling, like the older she gets, I understand that she won't be here forever. So I wanted to make sure that I got these precious, precious moments and memories before something did happen and I wasn't able to get any more. So I wanted to collect these memories. So that's how our trip basically went. We all had a ball. My son had a ball. It was hot. And we had these drink bans and dining bans for all the days that we were there, which these were such a pain. Cedar Point, shame on you. It really ought to be easier. It was a lot easier with the first time that we went to Cedar Point back in 2018, but ever since, we haven't been there, things for the park have just gone downhill. So that's how my trip went. And so now I'm going to go into like my planning and kind of show you guys how I got ready for this trip. So I told you guys I'm using the bullet journaling system. I'm using a standard traveler's notebook. This notebook is basically this just Scribble notebook and a Sterling Ink 517 page notebook. And then this is my day timer, day on 2 pages, monthly and weekly inserts. And these two have worked really well for me for the last weeks that I've been using them. So once I made these changes, they worked really, really nice. So let me just kind of go in and show you guys how basically I geared up to prepare for this trip. So for reference, I did use my ring inserts a lot because I was kind of future planning into July because I knew I wouldn't be here to kind of set up my daily pages or my weekly pages or anything like that. And I also didn't have solid dates already set in stone in here. I do have a future log section, but it helped a lot to be able to plug in these things so that I didn't forget, because I'm notorious for forgetting and I didn't want to keep writing things on sticky notes. So I did heavily rely on this ring bound system a lot. And I'm kind of finding, even though I am technically a one planner type of person, I am finding that having something like this that's kind of just predated, pre-set up, for me to just dump stuff does work really well with a bullet journal. Hence why I was using the Day Designer Pocket Monthly, because it was just so easy to collectively have those dates relatively available for me. So I'm not using that necessarily, but I am finding a lot of use with these inserts again. And like I said, I didn't ditch my rings because I didn't like the system. It was just, I needed a little bit of a change, a little bit more flexibility than I was allotted in that. And so when I combine these two together, they do work really, really, really well. So let's go into my monthly. So I don't know, the last time that I shared this, I didn't really specify or talk heavily on like some of the things that I did, but I did start using my like clear dots to basically draw attention to those really, really big dates, especially dates that I knew I had things going on. Before I was just kind of plugging them in, especially in the space that's allotted here, but I found it easier to have this so that those dates are also heavily highlighted without being too abrasive on the eyes. They're still really soft and subtle, but very out there that you definitely know there's something going on. So I definitely used my monthly a lot, but the star of the show was really my weekly. So this was my weekly, and of course, this is just my typical planning, but in my personal rings, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. I took the inserts out, or I took the insert out that I was using for July, only because I only used 1 week. I'm sorry, June. I took the insert that I was using for June out, only because it was literally like only 1 week anyway. But, I heavily relied on this for the trip planning, just the week that we were leaving, because I just needed to have these dates and I needed the ease of these dates. So I was plugging in a lot of reminders, a lot of like schedule based stuff that we had to do. And of course I was using my dots as well to note specific days, important days, like I'm doing in my personal rings, or I'm sorry, in my bullet journal. So I was doing a lot of that here. So for the last official week of June, I did heavily use my ring bound system to be a tool. So that heavily helped me when planning this last week of June and into July. I heavily relied on it. So I did a lot of my bulk, like schedule based stuff in here. I do find that it is a lot easier to have that schedule based stuff in my personal rings than in here. I do see it, but I don't know, for some reason, because this has like a timeline already, and because it's like schedule based in itself, it did help a lot better to just have it in there. But I did do a lot of that stuff in here. And then also what I used to help along with this weekly and also my daily planning was I used a packing checklist, especially since during this last week we were packing. Obviously, I was packing a lot of stuff. I had to pack my son's bag and my own. So I wanted to make sure that we didn't forget anything since we were going to be away and not conveniently next to a store where we could just leave and go get it. And plus, I didn't want to have the hassle of having to leave the park just to go get something. So I wanted to make sure that everything we needed for this trip we had. So this checklist is from Day Designer. And basically all I did was highlight the things that were relevant to me, or highlight the things that were not relevant in gray. And then everything else that was relevant, I checked off. And then things that were important, I highlighted in either yellow or fluorescent yellow, or anything that was like important, like really important, in red. And so this really helped. We do have another trip coming up for the end of this month. And so I will be doing this whole process yet again where I'm filling out this checklist, and I do have one ready to go. I just haven't filled it out. So basically I'm going to trim this down so that I can fold it really nice and neat into my TN. And then I'm going to go through the same process yet again where I highlight in gray all the things that are irrelevant for this trip, and then check off the things that will be relevant to this trip. And so I did a lot of schedule-based planning, but it doesn't look really different. It's just that, I was plugging in a lot more stuff and I barely utilized the right-hand side of the page because I was just super hyper fixed on like making sure that I wrote down every reminder that needed to happen. When it comes to June's dailies and stuff, here I'll do a quick flip. Basically, I followed the simple bullet journaling method. I already flipped through these for you, but I'm just kind of flipping back through just so you can see. I followed the simple like bullet journaling method, and this definitely worked towards the end of or towards the beginning of the week that we were going on vacation. I started making a don't forget goal type list. I usually do these when there are things that I want to make sure that I meet them on the target. Like, I need to get them done. They cannot be missed. They cannot be put off. And so I try to make like a timeline as to when this task needs to get done. So I use these little goal sticky notes for that. I definitely use my ICDT method. I know I have a lot of new subscribers, so I'm just briefly going to touch base on what ICDT is. It's just basically a dumped task list, and ICDT is where the task is in its completion. So I for in progress, C for cancel, D for done, T for transfer to a following week or following month, and then a star symbol to indicate how important that task is to me. So it's basically just a weekly task list, and instead of using like the Alistair method, which is Monday through Sunday, and then dumping your task, I use a basic symbol like task list where I dump my task, and then every task has a symbol. yeah, so that's basically how I do it. And I like doing it that way because basically I don't have to indicate the day that the task gets done. I just need to know that the task gets done and where it is in terms of being done. So that's how I use it. I know you can do the same thing with the Alistair method, but I think for a lot of people who just really get confused with too many like descriptions of how to use something, I think it's just better for me to just have it super simple and super like right there to the money. Like, I get this, I understand it. So that's why I came up with this kind of task list, because it just works better for my brain. But like I said, I did a lot of schedule-based planning and not task planning, but a lot of like to-dos, because I needed to make sure that everything got done. I heavily debated on whether or not I was going to take my planner, and also my journal, but I ended up not taking anything on this trip. And it gave me a great sense of relief knowing that I kind of did all this pre-planning and scheduling work prior to going on vacation. So in the midst of this, I filled out my last day on the 26th, and then we went on vacation. I slapped down something that I printed that just says vacation, just a funny comic strip, and then I wrote the dates that we went on vacation. And then when we got back, I really didn't plan at all because I didn't need to plan. We were just getting back. So there was nothing that really needed to be done. I did lay down the groundwork prior to leaving for vacation, so that way I knew what would be coming up for July, but I didn't really, do any daily type planning because I didn't need to. I do, however, here, let's see if I can get this to lay slightly flatter. I did, however, fill out my daily page for the start of July when we got back. So we got back on Tuesday, and I just kind of plugged in what the heck actually happened on Tuesday, like when we left, what we did. I started unpacking a little bit, but not a whole lot. I took some notes of what to do for the next day. So on this day, I was taking notes of what to do for tomorrow. And my husband had a sleep study on Wednesday, so I was also plugging that in because we needed to go grocery shopping this day. And so I just jumped right in. But had I not laid the initial groundwork for like the things that were coming up, I would have never known, right off the bat. Like, it just would have kind of slipped my mind. So I already knew that my husband had an appointment when we got back, like right when we got back, because I kind of like laid that groundwork down in here. And then I also, I think I put it in here as well. Yeah, I wrote it twice. So I wrote it in my future log just in case he changed it because of the day that we were getting back. And then I wrote it in the weekly. So I wrote it in the weekly for this week. And then I also noted it here, I think. And I also backed it up in my daily pages with my rings. So I was doing a lot of like back and forth just to make sure that when I got back, I didn't forget nothing, because I also have an appointment too at the end of this month. And so I want to make sure that everybody is taken care of before we go on our next vacation, which is right at the end of this month. So yeah, not much planning here has been taking place. So I do have a little bit of like stuff that I want to get done that will get done. I wanted to do a end of quarter like plan because the last 3 months were kind of all over the place. I spent the bulk of the second quarter basically in bullet journal and in standard TN. So I just kind of wanted to touch base like where I am in terms of like all my areas that I'm trying to focus on, like self-care, family, time and money, and all that good stuff, like my personal, and like just kind of touch base on my own wants and needs and things like that. So I do have this printable from Day Designer, which you can get these things free on their website. So I am going to be filling this out. I also, because July starts a new quarter, I do have some goals that I heavily want to work on. I have to make some appointments for my doctor, my primary, for September. So there are some things in terms of like health that I need to be working on. So I want to kind of map out some of those goals here. And then I just find this a lot easier right now than having an actual goal planner, because it's not like set in stone, like something that I have to continuously work on every day. This is a sheet of paper that I can fill out once, and I can carry it, and I can take as many scratch notes, sticky notes, I can reprint it. I can do a lot of stuff with just this one sheet. So that's what I want to focus on. I just want to focus on one goal right now, one big goal that I'm really hyper fixated on. So that's why I have this. So that's some stuff that I'm going to be doing for this particular quarter. And then, of course, when this quarter is over, I'll do another quarterly review. In terms of like where I am with my trackers and things like that, this is not it. Let's see. In terms of where I am with my trackers, I have done really well this year, kind of like tracking like my reading and my workouts. I kind of messed up a little bit. I started tracking my reading on the wrong one. One of these say workouts and one of these say reading, as you can see there. So I kind of jacked this one up just a little bit, but I drew some X's because I was like, that didn't happen. And then I wrote a little signifier that says X equals not accurate tracking. So no real workouts for the month of June. June was very busy and hectic and haven't worked out since being back, but I am going to get back on track. Reading, however, has been really well. I definitely set out to read 100 books this year. I can say that I'm not really on track to meet that goal, but consistently in terms of reading, I've done really well. I've consistently read throughout this year, and as long as I'm keeping my mind preoccupied with like books and things like that and not just looking at my phone or being on a computer, that works for me. My goal really, I think, is to just be able to read throughout the year at least something every day. So I'm on track with that. And then I managed to get this little thing filled out here, which is just like my daily routine, daily planning. So I did go ahead and populate in like our schedule, off days, on days, side notes about certain things, certain like schedule based things. And then like, well, I'm so sorry for that. This is the busiest street we live on, I swear to you. But I did go ahead and fill out like my weekly, daily, and monthly planning, like the things that I do to get ready for either the week, the month, or the day. And then, oh no, hold on. This little picture of my son when he was a newborn. This was his passport photo that I kind of just like laminated and stuck in the front because I was like, he's so little. So yeah, that's basically it. Oh, I do have like the monthly questions in the back here. There's like questions for, there's like monthly what am I trying to say, y'all? There's like monthly like journaling prompt questions for every day, for every month. And so I started doing them for July because remember, I didn't do them for June. So when we got back, I started filling them out. So that's what this book is. It's just for my journaling prompts. And I wrote the question. I'm trying to play catch up. So I wrote the question that I still need to work on, and I've just kind of been answering them and filling them out. I find this really therapeutic actually, because the questions are not that like bad. I think they're really simple questions, but they do make me think just a little bit, but not in the terms of like you think so much into it and then you end up with like 2 pages of like worded thoughts. It's very simple and just like, it gives me a peace of mind that I thought about something other than what I usually journal about. So I like it. So I'm doing that in this notebook. And yeah, basically that's how the month went for June. And that's the plan for July. Very simple planning. Since I've made these changes, planning has seemed much more easier. I actually really enjoy it. I actually really enjoy being back in my rings, which I think really what I enjoy is having this timeline. I know I can do this in a bullet journal, but to not have to draw it out just works for me. And then like, I don't know. I just really like having these pre-dated things for the kind of dated stuff that I need to be following up with. And I really do like this weekly, but I don't think I'm going to leave my bullet journal because that's also working. So instead, I've decided that I'm just going to use both because both are working really well for me until they stop working. And then, yeah, I'll just have to use my bullet journal. But for right now, they're both working really, really well. And I've also missed having, if I can get there, I've also missed having this to be done in July. This kind of works like a bullet journal. I explained this in older videos, but this really does kind of work like a bullet journal because you have like this monthly task list. And then the last time that I used it, I color coded, but technically you don't have to do that. But at the end, or let me back up. So if you can kind of see, there are numbers on the second sheet. So it's a day on 2 pages. So you have your timeline from 8 to 8, and then you have one little spot there where you can, write an extra hour. And then you have a free spot there where you can write, like, if you're early start, you can do that. But you have from 8 to 8, then your to be done or your action list down here at the bottom. And then you have this numbered area from 1 through 40. And the way that it works is that you put your notes here and anything that you need to transfer over that so say for instance, you called the doctor today, you got an appointment for August. Today is July 5th, but your appointment is not until August 21st. You can write that note here and then go to the very, very back, write the number of where that note is. I usually write the number and then write the date and then write what the note is. So that way I can go backwards and look at that day and be like, oh, okay. And then fill it in. Or you can just automatically fill it in if you know you're not going to make any changes. But that's how I use it. That's how it works for me. But yeah, this has been really nice. So those are my updates that I have. Hopefully you found it helpful if you're trying to revamp your system for the new quarter, the third quarter. Gosh, we're in the third quarter. But yeah, hopefully you're trying to revamp your systems or tweak your systems to be more effective for you. And yeah, hopefully you found this video helpful in that. So I don't know, I'm rambling now, but I'm gonna go ahead and go. I thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one when I get ready to probably plan to go on the next trip, which is like a few weeks. So yeah, you guys, thanks so much for watching. Bye.